Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be going over demand as well as supply. So a couple things that we're going to go over is law of demand, law of supply, different shift factors, and which way things move. So the first thing you should know is how to draw your curve. So you have your graph. On the y-axis is always your price, and your x is always your quantity. That's your first step. You should always label your graphs no matter what. If you don't, it's hard to know what you're trying to convey. Make sure you always do that. Okay, so we're going to first start off by talking about demand. When you think of demand, a lot of students think of, how much you want something, which is on par with the definition. So demand is basically how much you're willing and able to purchase a product. So basically, your willingness to pay. So we'll look at that more in depth later on in the semester as well. So here we have our demand curve. Our demand curve is downward sloping. Again, you see that I labeled it D0. This is our initial demand. So demand is downward sloping. Basically, the relationship between price and quantity, there is an inverse relationship, meaning as price increases, quantity demanded decreases. So think about this in your own everyday life. As price of a certain product that you like increases, are you more likely or less likely to buy this? For the most part, it's always going to be less likely. Now, let's just say your favorite product of all time, something you constantly buy, reduces in price. So let's just say it's 50% off. You're more likely to buy a little bit more compared to before. Again, you respond to price. So we'll talk about that as well. That's looking at elasticity. So the law of demand is basically interpreting the slope of the curve. Basically, at a higher price, lower quantity demanded. The lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. So law of demand is just describing your curve itself. Now, at each certain point, if we were to say the origin is 0, let's just say this is $5 and this is $10. And these are the quantities associated with. Let's just say this is 10 and 5. So we see at a lower price, we want much more. At a higher price, we want much less. Again, we respond to prices. Okay, now there's different shift factors associated with your curves. So there's things that cause a shift and things that cause a movement. So there's a shift versus the movement. Okay, so a movement is just up or down this curve. That is a movement along the demand curve. Now, the only thing that can cause a movement along the demand curve is a change in the price of the good itself. So let's say we're looking at the market for peanut butter. So PB is peanut butter. This is a market for peanut butter. To denote what it is, you can write a little chart title or just put PB in parentheses. So in this case, the only thing that can cause a movement along this curve is the change in the price of peanut butter itself. So if I initially say the price of peanut butter is $5, the only thing that can cause a movement up or down this curve is a change in price. So if I say the price increases by $5, so now our new price is $10, it's not going to be a shift, you're just moving up this curve. So if there's an increase in price, our price will increase and our quantity demanded is going to decrease. Why would our quantity demanded decrease? Again, at each one of these points, this is the quantity we demand at this specific price. So at $5 we want 10, at $10 we want 5. The reason we want less is because the price is increased and the law of demand. The higher the price, the less we want it, the lower the price, the more we want it. So the only thing that causes a change or a movement along this curve is a change in the price of the good itself. If we're looking at the market for cars, the only thing that could cause a movement is the change in the price of cars. The only thing that could change or cause a movement is the change in the price of the good itself. A lot of students get tripped up on this. It's important to know the difference between a shift versus a movement. Shift is up and down the curve. A shift is a complete parallel shift, which I'll go over next. A movement is up or down the curve. Again, that's only caused by changes in price. The next Next thing we're going to talk about is the different shift factors. So shift is a complete parallel shift. So an example of that would be if I were to say there's an increase in demand. Increase in demand would be a rightward shift. A decrease in demand would be a leftward shift. Basically, you're getting closer to the origin. So again, increase in demand is a rightward shift. Decrease in demand is a leftward shift. Just make sure you know those. And also the understanding behind those terms. So increase in demand, at each specific price, you want more. And a decrease in demand at each specific price, you want less. So if we were to just compare each of these points. So we have $10 and we have $5. This is how much we wanted at 5 and 10. So when there's an increase in demand, we want much more. We're getting further away from the origin. When there's a decrease in demand, you want much less. So again, you're getting closer to your origin. Now there's a couple of reasons why your curve will increase or decrease, or there'll be increase or decrease in demand. So one being income. So we'll start with income. So if you see an increase in income, this might change your consumption habits. Basically, you might want more of a product or you might want less of a product. So there's two types of goods that we look at. The first type of good is basically a normal good. The definition of a normal good, which is important to write down or to know, the definition of a normal good is as you see an increase in income, you see an increase in demand for this product. So again, I'll say it again. Increase in income, increase in demand for this product. So there'll be an increase in demand. Now, that's one type of good. That's a normal good. Now, the other one that's related to income is inferior good. An inferior good would be if you see a decrease in income, you see an increase in demand for this product. Or if you see an increase in income, you see a decrease in demand. So an example of this would be Top Ramen. So when you're in college, you don't have that much money, you're not going out every night having a steak dinner. Basically, you consume certain types of products. A famous example, Top Ramen. 20, 35 cents. It's cheap, so when you don't have a lot of money, you consume more of this. Now let's just say you graduate college, you get your adult job, and you're making 6 figures, right? Are you still going to be eating Top Ramen? Sometimes I have students that say they'd still eat it, which is completely fine, but for the most part, people won't. They're going to be moving on to finer quality foods, different options, whatever it may be. They can afford much more because of income. So, you have normal good, if you see increase in income, increase in demand. Inferior good is you see an increase in income, you'll see a decrease in demand for this product. Or vice versa. There's an inverse relationship there. So normal and inferior are important to know. The second shift factor is price of a related good. Price of a related good, again, we have two types of goods that we're going to be looking at. One's a substitute, one's a complement. So we'll start with substitute. The definition of a substitute is basically you can replace a product and get the same amount of benefit. So a common example is Coke and Pepsi. So if you hold them both at the same level, you get the same amount of happiness or utility from them. They're interchangeable. You can get the same amount of satisfaction. Now, if the price of Coke increases, again, you're holding them at the same level. If the price of Coke increases, what are you more likely to do? If you think there are substitutes, you're just going to go to the cheaper alternative. Again, the lower the price, the more we demand something. So if the price of Coke goes up, we want more Pepsi. If the price of Pepsi goes down, we want more Pepsi. Again, it's cheaper, and again, you're holding them to the same at the same level of happiness or utility. Another example would be, let's say, name brand and then also store brand. Or when you go to Costco, you have your name brand, you have your Kirkland brand, whatever it may be, whatever store you've gone to, there's name brand and there's store brand. So from there, the only difference sometimes is price. Let's just say you hold them to the same price. If you're getting the same exact product but for a cheaper price, you're going to increase your demand for that product. That's an example of that. So if the price of a related good increases, you're going to go for the cheaper alternative. If the price of the good decreases, again, cheaper alternative. Now, complements are when you have two products that you can interchange, or not interchange, two products that you need to consume together. So an example of this would be peanut butter and jelly, assuming that you love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. socks and shoes, cars and gas, things that need to go together. So again, you can think of various examples for this. So I highly recommend knowing a couple of them, just so you better understand this this whole concept. So when you look at a complement, think of a bundle. If one part of this bundle has become more expensive, this overall bundle is becoming more expensive. So you'll decrease your demand for these products. So we'll go over all these practice problems in a bit. Again, I just want to get through the different shift factors. So the next shift factor is taste. So consumers always change their taste. That's something that's been studied throughout time. Some things are more popular in certain times, some aren't. So for example, if you think back to a couple years ago, there was avocado on every single thing. So for example, there was avocados on burgers, they're making avocado smoothies, which is gross, a couple other things. But there was a huge hype behind avocados. So with that, there's an increase in demand for avocados because it's so popular. So the changes in taste and preference also play a huge role in this. Okay, expectations is another one. So expectations is basically depending on the price. So if you as a consumer, let's think of Black Friday, amazing sales, whatever it may be. If you know you're gonna get a product for, let's just say 50% off on Black Friday, what are you gonna do today? Today you're gonna consume much less. You're gonna wait till the future to consume this product. So what's gonna happen to our demand curve? Basically, if you expect a lower price in the future, you're gonna demand less today. You demand less today, decrease in demand. Now, it can be the same thing going the other way. Now let's say the price is cheaper today and you for some reason have some type of information that's saying a month from now prices are going to skyrocket. So you're going to go out and consume more today. Again, it's cheaper to consume. Okay, and the last one is number of buyers. I'm running out of room. I'll just put it up here. Number of buyers. This one's pretty straightforward. Let's just say it's just me and you in the market. There's only 2 individuals that demand products in this market. Now let's say I add 30 more individuals to this group of just me and you. Now we have more people that demand products, and this is going to shift our curve. So when you increase the number of buyers, you increase your demand curve. Anytime you decrease your number of buyers, you decrease the demand curve. So those are the shift factors. Next, we're going to go over some practice problems. All right, so we're going to go through our first practice problem here. We have the market of coffee. So we have the demand curve for coffee. PC, this is coffee. QC is coffee as well. So in this case, we have our first explanation. So coffee is a normal good. So again, remember back to what a normal good is. A normal good is basically when you see an increase in income, you see an increase in demand for a product. Again, we're assuming that when you have more money, you want more of this product. So when you increase income, again, I kind of gave away the answer, but there'll be an increase in our demand curve. So in this case, it shifts to the right. Okay, now if I were to say the opposite, let's say coffee is a inferior good. Remember the definition of inferior good. When we see an increase in income, we see a decrease in demand for this product. So coffee is an inferior good now. So when we see an increase in income, what's going to happen to our demand? Our demand is going to shift to the left. Again, we want less of this because we have more money now. So, sorry, I forgot what was up on the board. So if coffee is an inferior good, you're going to see a decrease in demand in this case because you have more money. You could afford something better. For example, let's just say tea or some other type of alternative. Okay, the next one we're going to go over, we're still looking at the market for coffee. So the first one was income, how income is related. INC is income. And another thing to remember, when you think of the demand curve, think of the consumer. So demand is just a consumer, supply is the supplier or producer. Okay, so the next thing we're going to go over is, let's say T is a substitute there's an increase in the price of tea. So tea is a substitute, meaning you can either consume coffee or tea, you hold them to the same value. Now, tea is a substitute. There's an increase in the price of tea. It's become much more expensive. What's going to happen to your demand for coffee? So we're looking at the market for coffee. That's the important thing. You're looking at the market for coffee. You want to analyze what happens because of this. So now, if the price of tea increases, our demand for coffee is going to increase. Why? Because coffee is seen to be cheaper in this case. You're going to go for the cheaper alternative. Now, if we were to do it the other way around, if I said the price of tea decreases, what's going to happen to demand for coffee? Demand for coffee is going to decrease. It decreases because tea is cheaper now. You want more of the tea as opposed to coffee. Okay, the next one, we'll do complements. So let's just say cake is a complement. And there's an increase in the price of cake. So in this case, we're assuming coffee and cake go together, they're a complement. Again, just an example. So if there's an increase in the price of cake, so think of the bundle. If there's an increase in the price of cake, this overall bundle has become more expensive. So do you want more coffee or less coffee? The correct answer is less coffee. Again, your bundle has become more expensive. Now if I were to do this the other way around, if I said the price of cake decreased, there'd be an increase in demand. There's an increase in demand in this case because our overall package has become cheaper. Cake has dropped, we can consume more. The money we were spending on coffee before, we can spend more on cake and consume more of both of these items together. All right, the next one is taste and preference. Let's just say coffee is a new trendy thing to do. More people love drinking coffee. What would happen to this curve? If it becomes more popular, more trendy, there's more hype around it, you're going to see an increase in demand. So there's an increase in demand, it's going to shift to the right. If things become less popular, there's going to be a decrease in demand. Okay, we've gone over number of buyers. It's pretty straightforward. When you increase the number of buyers, you increase the demand curve. Decrease the number of buyers, decrease the demand curve. The one I want to focus on is expectations. So this is based on the future. If you know the price is going to be higher in the future, what are you going to do today? So if the price increases in 6 months, what's going to happen today? So if the price is higher in 6 months than compared to today, you're going to increase in the demand today. Because you want more today, it's cheaper today. Now if we were to do this the other way around, the price is lower in 6 months, you're going to consume less today and more in the future. Again, responding to price. So those are all the examples we're going to go over. If you have more questions, leave them in the comment section. Reach out to me if you have any other extra questions that you need more help with. I'm going to be posting another video on supply, and we'll go over examples for those, and then we'll combine them both together on the same graph. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time.